What's going on, everyone? And thanks for joining me for another great conversation. As always, I appreciate you guys. We're finally getting off of vacation mode here on the podcast, and we've started to pick it up with these conversations that you guys love to listen to. My next guest is Chris from Lovin Off The Land, and what he and his wife set out to do was a 365-day challenge to eat only what they can catch, grow, harvest, or raise themselves. It's a fascinating tale. It's a fascinating conversation. I hope you guys appreciate it. I introduce Chris from Loving Off the Land. All right. Chris, like I was just saying off the mic, thank you so much for coming on. My wife was the one that saw what you guys were doing and put me onto it. And I think what you and your wife got going on right now is super incredible. But before we get into all that stuff, thanks for coming on the show. If you could just let the listeners know a little bit about you personally before we get into what you're up to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we like you said, we're kind of doing this internet thing and a real life thing, I guess, as well. So we're doing a 365-day self challenge to only eat what we catch, grow, harvest, and raise, and that's right down to everything. So we didn't stock up on staples like flour and sugar. We're growing stevia for sugar. We're getting salt from the ocean and absolutely everything. So nothing that we eat or drink has come from a grocery store or hasn't been harvested or raised by us.
That's incredible. Now, the average person, see, I'm in the city right now. I live in about 40 minutes from Boston here in the East Coast. Um, People around the city would think that that type of lifestyle is impossible nowadays. Did you guys have any experience going into this, or did you just make it happen? Good old, hard grit.
Yeah, a little bit. So I was sort of not an expert on any of the things, but I've been kind of done a bunch of stuff already. So we had a garden going. It wasn't a very big plot, but I've been growing kind of vegetables here, and just kind of your basic ones, to be honest. So your kale and carrots and your beets and tomatoes and peppers in the summer and stuff. But definitely not an experienced gardener. And then, yeah, we're super lucky to be on a small island as well with access to the ocean, which is a big part of our food and our sustenance. So had some background and a little bit of, again, not an expert, but done some fishing and crabbing and prawning before. So we knew we could rely on that a bit as well.
Okay, so a lot of you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, being able to pull this off was definitely the environment you were in. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, definitely. So we're very fortunate for two major factors. One is, believe it or not, in Canada, we are in a Canada growing zone 9. So we're actually in a sub-Mediterranean climate here on the southern west coast of Canada. So we grow things right through the winter. Our kale and carrots and kind of winter crops survived right through the winter. And then, yeah, also being on the ocean is our second huge factor, which we're very fortunate for. Not obviously everyone has advantage to, but is the ocean. So we had a bit of a fallback backup plan that we include seaweed in our diet if we didn't get enough vegetables and can kind of, go down to beaches and get oysters and mussels and some things like that. That was a good backup plan for us, which we've taken advantage of as well.
Gotcha. Now this sounds extremely difficult. I guess let's rewind to the very beginning. What made you guys even want to tackle this type of, year or challenge, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been something I've kind of wanted to do, to be honest, and I've kind of been growing food and doing that for a bit. And then I think the main factor as well was with the pandemic hitting and kind of put things in reality a bit. And, go to the grocery store and they're out of certain things. And you just kind of realize just how reliant we are on corporations and on companies to provide us with our most basic needs. And if, I'm not a big like prepper survivalist conspiracy theory guy, but it put things in perspective that if, shit went wrong, what can you do? Can you survive? And a lot of people don't do this these days. And, I think back to my grandparents during the kind of war era and growing their own food and really having to rationing things. And, I've grown up extremely spoiled and privileged, I think, and never had to really worry about my food or think about where it came from. And that was kind of a big reality check for us.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think most of the problems that we have, in my opinion, in society nowadays is because we're not sovereign enough as individuals, as people.
Yeah.
And we tend to definitely chase convenience, right? And anybody that can do it for us, or any entity or corporation that can do it for us. But then we get bummed out when, they turn on us, right? When these corporations are up to no good and we figure it out, we kind of feel betrayed. But I agree with you. I think if you're more sovereign and you know how to do these things, then it can kind of like be a cushion for the fall once you realize that all this stuff is really probably most likely bad for you and it's killing you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, been something that we've really noticed a lot more and kind of, again, took for granted before. And I think most people of my generation, younger, have taken for granted is just what's going into our food too. And now you're kind of eating healthy and you know where your meat's coming from, where your vegetables are coming from, where you're getting stuff. And you kind of go back and look at some of those ingredients and things that you were eating. And you go, oh, I can't believe I was putting that in my body. And I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
we've kind of had to find creative ways to make the foods that we like. So one of the our latest video we just did actually was one on Nutella, because that was one of Steph's favorite things. We're going,
Oh,
okay, how can we make our own Nutella, which is a great example. So you go and you research it on the internet and you go, holy shit, Nutella is 56% sugar. It's got 32% palm oil in it. And you go, man, we used to like eat that by the spoonful. And you're like, oh my God, that's nuts. It only had 13% hazelnuts in it. So we got a hazelnut tree and foraged those and made our own hazelnut spread. There was 100% hazelnuts, a little bit of sea salt in it, and it was just as good. So
that's incredible. Now, how long did it take did you grow the actual hazelnut tree yourselves or?
no.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
we're allowed to forage around the islands, and as long
Okay.
as sort of we go and harvest them, then that's okay. We're very fortunate to be on a half-acre property, but it's not kind of a massive. We're part of these homesteading groups, and people have kind of 20-acre farms and 10-acre properties and things. So small compared to the homesteading realm of things, but definitely super fortunate compared to a lot of people in the city, or if you're in an apartment or something. Obviously, this kind of situation wouldn't work as well.
Gotcha. So now we've been talking a little bit about the growing aspect of things, but what really intrigued me is basically the hunting aspect of it, or having to kill your own food in order to fish. Or the turkey was the funny example that I laughed at when I watched your guys' video, because I also felt bad for the turkey. So talk
Yeah.
to the listeners a little bit about the experience of having to kill your own food.
Yeah, I mean that's an eye-opening thing as well. We documented the first time that we did that with one of our turkeys, and it's everyone says don't name your animals, which I mean don't get attached to them, but you do, and you raise them from little chicks, and you kind of grow up. So yeah, we struggled was the right word, but it was a really emotional moment for us to do that and then to take a life, and it kind of puts things in perspective as well. And once it's all said and done, we feel good at the end of it, knowing that we know where that animal came from. We know that we provided it with a good life, as compared to, you see a lot of these videos from factories and things crammed into cells and force fed and all these kind of different things. And knowing that we gave it a good life and a quick and humane death. As a meat eater, I think people should have to try it. Like if you want to eat meat, you should at least know where it's coming from. Like all I've been doing growing up is just putting that on somebody else to deal with, and not having to kind of think about it. So it's a very eye-opening experience for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Now, was it just like chicken and turkey and the fish, or did you actually go out and get game? I don't know if you have game on that island or anything like that. Or
Yeah, there's deer, but it's such a small island, and
yeah,
it's more residential. So there's not too many properties that are big enough you can fire a gun if you're not too close to a road. So we haven't done any game hunting or anything like that.
okay,
But yeah, chickens, turkeys, and ducks and things that we have on the property here.
awesome, awesome. Is there anything that you had to grow to love over the time of it when it comes to eating, like something? Like, see,
Oh,
I'm not a big fish guy, so that would have been hard for me. How about you?
yeah, kale over the winter. That was our kind of bulk, or that was our bulk crop that we knew we could grow. We knew would survive during the winter, so we grew a ton of it. We kind of jumped into it too. Like we started August 3rd of last year, so we're almost at a year now. And yeah, we jumped in. We had about 3 weeks before the 100% that we were going to do it. So we scrambled to get some things in the ground late and planted a ton of kale, and it definitely got monotonous over the winter. And I think that's been the hardest thing about the whole challenge is we never, with the ocean and everything that we have, we've been super lucky that we've never been short of food or running low on things, but
Okay.
it's just the monotony of the same things, and not having to be like, oh, I'm going to put garlic salt on this, or some of the, seasoning salt and all these different things that you kind of used to having. It's gets a little monotonous for sure.
Now, how do you guys have any skills that you require to like kind of beat the monotony, like just to get yourself back focused on the prize?
Yeah, so I think we keep adding things in. I think that's been an exciting thing about this experience too, is just adding something new that we learned about each week. So we're like, okay, let's learn how to make apple cider vinegar this week. Okay, now that's in our back pocket. Let's learn how to make Nutella. We got that. Let's we just got quail a few weeks ago. So okay, now we got
Nice.
quail eggs and can try a different type of of meat and just sort of figuring out different things. Seaweeds, we've eaten a bunch of different seaweeds now. We found one that we really liked and didn't know you could eat before. So yeah, once you start looking for things, there's actually a lot of edibles out there.
Interesting. Yeah. Now, is there a certain like macro type that you guys go for, like more meat as opposed to veggies and green, or is it more green? Is it what strategy you guys go with? Or does it matter? You just eat what's next.
Yeah, it kind of went with the season, to be honest. So during the winter, we were very, very protein heavy, and yeah, at the end of our challenge here is actually kind of interesting. We're going to release some of our blood work and our health stuff that we did. So in August, we had lots of fruits and vegetables and fish. In the first 3 months, we dropped a ton of weight and cholesterol came down, and things were healthy. And then during the winter, the cholesterol peaked up a bit because we were eating a lot of eggs. So it was eggs for breakfast every morning. It was very meat and protein heavy, as there weren't a lot of vegetables or as many as there are now. So that popped back up, and now it's kind of coming back down a bit with more kind of easier out in the water, getting seafood and more vegetables and more fruits coming back. So it's yeah, basically whatever's available.
Interesting. And now, did you guys start with a base number, or did you just kind of like after a while check into your? I'm assuming it's blood work, right? Is that what you're checking?
Yeah, blood work. Yeah, so we did it kind of right at the beginning, and then did a mid one, and then we got another one coming up in 2 weeks here, right at the end of it. So.
Oh, that's super interesting to see the difference. And what was that? Sorry.
It'll be interesting to see the whole spectrum, but yeah, we went after 3 months as well, and then at 6 months. So at 3 months it came down, but it was really not scary, I guess, but it was really interesting to see that our cholesterol had jumped back up a bit over the winter. We're like, wow, we've been eating so healthy and like no alcohol and doing all these things. So we were kind of surprised by that. But yeah, doing some research and talking to some professionals, this is probably because you're so meat heavy and you're eating eggs and all that protein.
Now, did it correlate with weight gain, or was it just the cholesterol going up, but you guys stuck to a normal weight?
A little bit, yeah. It kind of it's kind of plateaued, I would say. It maybe went up a few pounds from the first 3 months, but that's kind of dropped off again now. So yeah, plateau, but now it's sort of cutting down a bit again. And I had a few extra pounds to lose at the beginning of this, so that's a good thing.
And are you guys exercising or anything, or just your normal
a little bit work? I'll give away the secret. We're exercising a bit more in this last month to get our before and after pictures looking great. but the first 11 months, no, it's just eating healthy, and then you're living so much more actively too. When you're out doing things in the garden, you're outside, you're always got something on the go. So I think it was just having a more active lifestyle as well.
And what about the everyday? What I consider the everyday conditions that people get, which I think are related to stress, like the headaches of the world. Or these things, did you guys seem to just like have those either way, or did they disappear for good? Or
yeah, we used to. Like, I came from a pretty stressful job before this, and sort of managing a high-end resort, so that was a lot of work and a lot of stress. So during kind of COVID, that work ended, which is something that we were off work, both of us, for the first 3 months with the pandemic, and kind of allowed us the time to get started and build the infrastructure. And I've been back in another job now since January. So back to work and managing both. But yeah, cutting out the sugar and the caffeine, things like sleeping better through the night, and your energy levels are more balanced, and yeah, a lot less stress for sure. So it's been a good kind of mental health, as well as the kind of weight loss and things as well.
Gotcha. Nice. Now, how's COVID been up there? You're in Canada, correct? How's COVID up there when it started and now currently?
Yeah, it was kind of ups and downs like everywhere, I think, but we've kind of got through the hump here, and most people are kind of hitting that double vaccination thing now. So things are starting to open back up, and restaurants are open again. So yeah, it got pretty bad across Canada for a little while there, but slowly getting back to normal, which is good.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I like to always ask the person themselves, because you get caught up in these headlines, and if you were to listen to these headlines, then Canada's burning right now, and this is all. So it's good to hear that you're doing well, and all that's good. I'm interested how this took a toll on you guys, or if it didn't financially. Like, does this help the average person save money? Is it more expensive to get this set up, this type of lifestyle, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, I think we definitely saved a ton of money on, booze and not drinking. We probably drank too much before this as well, with the hospitality lifestyle, and eating out and groceries, things, obviously a huge saving. So overall this year, I wouldn't say that we saved that much money because of all the infrastructure we put in. So, we're building chicken coops, and, we've fenced our 1/2 acre property, and we bought a beehive. And so all these things kind of added up that I would guess roughly the same amount. But I think next year, most of our infrastructure is there. So next year, I think there'll be a massive, massive savings for sure.
Yeah, plus I would say the trade-off that you're putting, for living a healthier lifestyle would be worth the money as opposed to dumping it on tequila, dumping it on burgers and stuff like that. So yeah,
Exactly.
fair assessment. So I'm assuming you guys are not slowing down after 365 days though.
No, well, we may slow down a little bit and make some exceptions, but we're loving it. So we're gonna keep going with it. We got yeah, we're definitely gonna keep going and keep doing what we're doing, and yeah, really enjoying it. But I think we'll be not quite as strict moving forward. So I'm looking forward to a coffee and a couple other things like that we've been missing. So
Now I don't know anything about coffee, but would it be out the stretch of the imagination that you guys could grow your own coffee, or is that like a climate thing?
we got one plant that may potentially produce some beans in like 3 years or something, but yeah, we don't have the best climate for coffee, so we might be able to make our own cup a couple of years from now, but we'll be getting that from the store eventually.
Super interesting. So what would you tell anybody who's trying to take on this type of lifestyle? Because nowadays it's the diet fad. Most people chase the diet, whether it's a carnivore diet or it's a keto diet or whatever. What would you tell somebody to try to get started in this type of lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the diet things, I think that's exactly what they are. They're fads and the next big thing, and you may like lose weight temporarily while you're on this 2 month or 3 month diet, but it really comes down to eating healthy and exercise and being active. And if you're doing both those things, there aren't really any shortcuts. People always want shortcuts these days. It's the same thing with your food. Like you said, you want that convenience. You want to, I'm going to be at McDonald's in 5 minutes and have a burger. And there's no shortcuts with your health and being healthy as well. And if you're being careful about what you're eating and growing your own food, which is healthy and where it's coming from, then your health is going to be better overall for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well said. Now, when it comes to research, though, like if somebody's coming straight from scratch, what would you say? Just typical Google, or is there like a certain key place that you like to go to, or you guys like to get info from?
Yeah, I mean, we learned a lot from some Facebook groups. There's lots of homesteading and gardening groups out there, and you'd be amazed. There's beekeeping groups and raising chicken groups and turkey groups. So we kind of joined a bunch of those just to learn from some people that were doing it, and learn from YouTube as well. There's lots of YouTube videos out there nowadays on pretty much everything, and that was actually interesting. That's one of the things that we wanted to start documenting this and making our own YouTube videos, is because we were watching them. Everyone's this sort of expert, and they go, "Oh, how do you butcher a chicken?" So you watch it, this guy that's been doing it for 30 years does it up and goes doot, 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 and 5 minutes later it's done and it's perfect. And then you go and try it and you'd be like, that's not what happened at all my first time I butchered a chicken. So we kind of document like an honest sort of example of what we're doing and how it goes, and kind of learning from our mistakes, and hopefully other people can learn from those too. So
Yeah, so. How many, if you could put a number, how many chickens have you killed thus far?
I think over the year, 12, probably about 18 chickens and 4 turkeys, I think we've done.
That's mafia numbers.
Yeah. It seems like it, but when that's your protein and you're not, eating burgers and steaks and all those things, it goes quicker than you think.
Yeah, definitely. I'm super interested in trying to incorporate, not maybe as hardcore as you did, but this type of lifestyle as well. Like I said, I'm in a city, so I'm gonna have to be very reliant on maybe like the farmers that are maybe an hour out of town or something like that. But I agree with you, man. I think if we could just cut out, you guys cut it all out, but if I could cut out at least 95% of the crap that I could pick up at the grocery store, I think not only me but my wife and my kids will be much better off. So,
Yeah. I think if you can buy local as well, that's great for the environment these days. So there's lots of local farms people can buy from. Even small things that make a difference. Grow some stuff on your balcony if you're in an apartment, or if you have a small property, just get a couple hens and they'll give you eggs every single day. It's there's different sort of things you can try. You don't have to go kind of all out on everything. But
yeah, it's just, that's why I'm still blown away to be having this conversation and to see the progress you guys have made. Because to me, it's like in this city, it's nearly impossible to live that way. But I guess there's always hope.
sure. Yeah, there's little things. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, weight wise, did you guys dropped a ton of weight? I'm assuming. How did that work out?
Yeah, I was a little heftier than Steph to start, so I lost a lot more weight than she needed to. But yeah, I'm down about probably 35 pounds.
Awesome, congratulations.
Down about 15. So yeah, and just overall feel healthier too. Like it's not just about the weight, but like I said, the energy levels and and sleeping better through the night and all those kind of things that just kind of balance out, when you're eating and drinking what you're kind of supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's true for sure. So did you guys split tasks? Like you would do more of the I'm generalizing things, but like you would do more of the killing the chicken, she would do more of the plant stuff, or vice versa. How'd you guys split your chores up?
A little bit. We both kind of got things I think we're a little bit more experts in, but we both try and do both, to be honest. So, and that's one of the things that we both really wanted to do to push ourselves and document as well. So, Steph's killed and butchered a chicken all on her own, which was an interesting video, and people enjoyed seeing, because most people wouldn't think, like, someone of this generation, that wasn't raised on a farm and grew up in the city is going to be able to kind of kill and butcher a chicken. So we've kind of both pushed ourselves to know a little bit about everything and make sure that we're both doing it.
That's awesome. Fantastic. The sugar, how did you guys pull off your own sugar? I'm curious about that.
Sure. So again, we didn't really know at the beginning. I knew what stevia was, but I didn't know you could kind of grow it in a plant. But we tracked down a couple stevia plants, and you can grow them. And where is it? Here. So that guy there is a stevia plant. It just comes in a plant, and the leaves are actually ridiculously sweet. So you can just add them straight to things, but if you chew it, it's probably 4 or 5 times as sweet as sugar, which
Really?
is kind of crazy. But you can process it. We made a liquid out of it, so we can add it to things. You can grow stevia. We've got bees now, so we've got honey.
Oh wow!
We've kind of got some different sweetener ideas as well.
Now, is the pound for pound healthier than sugar is, the stevia? I'm assuming it is, but
yeah, but I mean, it's a natural plant, right? So if you buy the processed stuff in the store, I think they add stuff to it, and that's definitely not as healthy as straight off the plant. But you're just kind of eating leaves. So yeah, it's way healthier than processed cane sugar for sure.
And how long can you get a healthy stevia plant? How long will it take for it to get to that? Like how that guy was right there.
And this time of year, a month or two, I would say. 2 months probably. But we're in a pretty moderate climate. We had a bit of a greenhouse built over the winter, so we had our plants survived, and they kind of died down a bit, but came back up in the spring. So
awesome. Yeah. Have you had any terrible moments where you were like expecting something to be there and it died, like a harvest that was supposed to come?
A bunch of things. We started documenting a bunch of stuff that didn't quite work out the way we wanted. So we had hopes of making like sunflower oil for an oil, and we put them down to dry and forgot about it for a little too long, so they went moldy, so we couldn't do those. And definitely had a bunch of different crops that didn't turn out, and not that we were relying on, because we're experimenting with a lot of things. So I don't think we expected everything to work, but yeah, there's been tons of setbacks with the boat breaking down and being stranded in the ocean, and all sorts of different things like that have gone on. So
yeah, what was happening with that? I saw you guys' intro video. You were stuck out there. How long were you stuck out there for?
Yeah, oh man, a good hour and a half.
Yeah,
out there for, but that was that was week 2, so it was right at the beginning of the journey. We're like, okay, we got our fallback plan. We can fish. We got crab. We can get seafood. And then week 2, the boat broke down. So we're like, oh no, that's not a good stuff. That's not a good start to this whole journey. So it's
how'd the boat end up? Is it fixed?
It's fixed now. Yeah, I was running. It took a little bit. It was out. It was a whole crank in the propeller thing, a gear that ground off and broke. So we had to order parts, and that took forever. So it was out for about 4 to 6 weeks. So definitely not what we wanted to start when we were relying on seafood.
Yeah, no, but and then have to rely on others to try to get you out there to get the seafood.
Yeah. I switched it up. We go, okay, we'll go to the beach and get oysters or something and do that instead. So
But yeah, now have you always been into all types of food? Because you're naming a bunch of stuff that I would have to learn to like for sure.
I've always enjoyed a lot of different types of food. There's not many things I different like. Steph, on the other hand, she's taken some getting used to some things, and I'm pretty surprised. Things like seaweed, I didn't think she would go for, but we've just kind of tried a bunch of things and found a really good seaweed salad recipe that we like with adding some things in, and definitely grown to like a lot of things for sure.
Which I also think it's underrated. I think a lot of us psych ourselves out of things without actually trying them. And more often than none, if we were to try them, sort of like our parents told us, if we were to try it, we would probably end up liking these things.
Yeah, it's true. You kind of feel like a 5-year-old. You're like, yeah, I guess what, I do like it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So with all the information you guys have amassed and all the experience you guys, have put together here, I do know you guys have the YouTube page, but is there any other plans for this information? I don't know, write a book, anything like that? You guys got any plans for this?
Maybe, yeah. We might do a book. Everyone keeps telling us to do a cookbook with all the kind of different recipes that we've done for sort of your natural cooking and things like that. So there's potentially that. I think we're going to try and do like a big year-end video to kind of summarize the whole journey. So I think that's one that we're definitely going to do. But yeah, Steph and I, neither of us are writers. So if we find a ghostwriter, maybe we'll do a book. But I think that's either
Nah,
or taste.
nah. I say if you sit out there with some coffee when you start
Exactly.
leading back
Yeah.
in early mornings, I think anybody can be a writer. I mean, you might have to get an editor, I'm sure, to kind of go through and coach through it, but
Totally.
don't do the ghostwriter route. They'll probably just make you sound terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah, I'm just one of the firm believers, and nobody could make something sound like you more than you, right? So I would
True.
never outsource it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the YouTube channel, it has about 23,000 subscribers. Has that all been through this year, or did you guys start something before
Yeah.
that?
All through this year. So we just started posting videos. I think our first video was only 11 months ago. So kind of built that up, and then yeah, starting to get a bit of a following, which is nice. And yeah, I get good feedback from people. And it's nice to kind of hear back. I think providing people that information, but for us, a big part of it, I think, was to hold ourselves accountable too. If we put this out there publicly into family and friends, you kind of got to do it and stick with it at that point, rather than just kind of quietly slither away and go for a Big Mac or something.
Yeah. Do you know what your favorite, your top rated episode would be? Like what you guys were up to in the episode?
The last one we did was pretty good. So that was it was a longer one. It was like a full property tour. So we went top to bottom, went through all of our 3 different gardens that we got, and talked a bit about the fishing and, growing mushrooms and stumps, and opened up the beehive and showed people that, and foraging seaweed from the beach. So that was a good overview. And I think, Steph killing the chicken was a popular episode.
I
Yeah.
bet I didn't see that one, but I have to see it now. Every time you keep saying "kill the chicken,"
Yeah.
something super interesting that I actually remember you brought up when I sent you the form is the amount of waste that you guys have gotten rid of over the year. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. And that, wasn't something that we planned for. It wasn't, part of our challenge or something we were actively trying to do. But another one of those things that just put things in perspective for us is just how much garbage is produced from our food and beverage that we consume. And after 3 months, we only had 2 small bags of garbage with cutting that out. And it kind of makes you realize between, milk cartons and pop bottles, a lot of it's recyclable. You never really know where it goes back, but you know, cardboard and plastic packaging that comes in your food, the styrofoam packaging, and all those sort of things. Everything you get in the grocery store basically comes in some form of packaging, and how fast that adds up. So it was a really cool, kind of bonus part for us to realize, how little waste we could actually produce when we're producing our own food.
Yeah, that's interesting and awesome. I didn't think about that either until you put it there. Do you think that let's just the food industry as a whole will ever turn back to something more healthy for everybody, or you think there's just way too much money involved in that industry?
It depends. I think the younger generations are starting to look at that a little bit more now, and I think not just from the food, but from more of an environmental aspect, and trying to grow your food locally, or at least source it from local farms and local areas rather than these big manufacturers. And more and more people are switching to plant-based diets as well. So I think it'll continue. I don't think it's going to be there in a decade or something overnight, but yeah, I do think we'll see a little bit more of a trend back towards this way for sure.
I sure hope so, and at least not see any of the charlatan stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
like, what I mean is like like you said, plant-based diets seem to be more of a thing nowadays. But I don't know how I feel about a plant-based burger, and,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I think that's the companies jumping in there and try to make a thing of something. But go ahead.
yeah. I mean, yeah. To be honest, that the big they were out there before, but the big fad kind of took off while we've been doing this. So I haven't had any of the new ones yet that are supposed to be pretty good. But I guess they're popular with a bunch of people. They're putting them out there. So
Yeah, I just worry about the industry, capitalizing on plant-based diets, right? And now trying to
oh,
make
yeah.
something because I've seen I believe it's the Wonder Burger, but I've seen an ingredient panel for their burger versus just getting a nice, ground beef burger patty. And it's about a paragraph and some stuff that I've never even heard of in my life. So I just hope that the food industry doesn't say, "Hey, let's make a ton of money on this and just call it plant, but not really give the benefits to the eater." It's what I'm
Yeah.
worried about. But
Yeah, well, that's the same thing with all the processed foods for big corporations. It's about making money, so they got to give it a good shelf life and put preservatives in, and add fillers probably to make more money, and all these kind of other things that go in there and make it the right color and the right flavor, and all these kind of things that people just go, oh, plant based, and I think 95% of people don't bother reading the back of the label. They just go plant based, perfect. It's gonna be healthier for me.
Right. That was the thing probably a decade ago with the word organic. It was like
Yeah.
anything that was organic was, oh, it must be healthy, but
Uh,
you know.
yeah,
But
food companies went, great, we can charge twice as much for it. Perfect. Yeah.
exactly, they're always ahead of it. I mean, the food industry is always ahead of it, and I also don't have too much faith. And this is me personally going on off on a tangent. I personally don't have too much faith on the pharmaceutical, industry as a whole either, because it falls right into their hands for somebody to continue to eat this shit and continue to, to destroy their bodies with it. You go right into the hospital, and then that's when you end up in the clutches and the hands of the pharmaceutical industry. So I'm really worried about that as well.
Yeah, agreed. It's and this kind of, again, that's another big, corporate entity now is, medicine and doctors and pharmaceuticals and food. And it's almost everything nowadays is coming down to making money and making profits. And, I think that, and again, not for me to go off on a tangent, but that's going to be the downfall of our society is our society is built on expanding and more consumption. If people don't consume more and more every year, the economy collapses and things go down, and we've just made our society so much about the financials and the economy, as opposed to living life really. So it's pretty scary.
Yeah, I agree. I think all those, big parties, big industries are tied into each other. And I think what called me out about what you guys are doing is that in a world where profits is number one, in a world where they'll continue to, wreak more profits out of the people, individuals such as yourself and your wife and what you guys are doing is being completely sovereign from that system. You guys are not dependent on the food industry. And because of that, you guys don't have to depend on the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
And if I wanted anybody to get anything out of this episode, it was absolutely that. It's that it is possible, and you guys are proof of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as we kind of expand down this journey, this year it was mainly about food, but I think we want to continue that journey as well. And we're, looking at putting solar in this year as well, and getting a massive water tanks. We're not reliant for water. And, once we can get vodka back, we're looking at making tinctures and our own medicines and things like that too, that you can make with some higher proof alcohol. So, it's possible to do all these things on your own and not rely on people.
And you're not trying to become a prepper. Is that what you're telling me? It sounds like you're
I
lined up
sound
to
a lot like I am, don't I? I sound a lot like I am. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it just seems like you have all those ducks in order. But so unconsciously, you're becoming a prepper, which is fantastic, by the way. I mean, the way the world is nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay.
you're planning on making your own medicine.
Yeah, just tinctures and things. And I think, that's another thing that you kind of look at, like before when I was drinking too much, you go, oh, I'm going to take like, dandelion pills for your liver. And you go, I got 100 dandelions growing in my yard. Why am I paying for these tablets of dandelion in this bottle that's been manufactured in a plastic thing as well? And it's right outside, and you can, little research, and you do most of the stuff yourself.
You guys must have a really good radar for spotting bullshit. Do you guys, like, when you're reading, like, you're gonna go down, the road of learning how to do tinctures? Can you spot a bullshit artist or like a real article, insightful stuff?
A lot more now, yeah. I think it's just taking the time to pay attention too. And again, it's, with these fast-paced lives and having to work and all these things, people are so distracted that they don't feel like they have the time to do the research or read the labels or grow their own food. And it's all just this like consistent like panic of having to be go, go, go all the time. And kind of once you slow down and take the time to look at these things, there's a lot of bullshit out there for sure.
Yeah, that's another thing, because it's easy to tell somebody to do research, right? Like, oh, you could just go research, but they could fall down a pit hole while
Yeah.
doing this research of just charlatans taking advantage of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting world we're in. So things are opening up over there for COVID. Is that changing anything you guys are doing, or are you guys just sticking to the script you guys have been working on?
Yeah, we're kind of sticking to the script, and I think that's been an interesting thing for us too. I think actually being COVID, we were talking the other day. I think it's actually made it easier for us, just because there's been less temptations. Normally we like to go travel for a month in the winter and kind of escape Canada, and that wasn't an option this year. Friends aren't going out to parties. We're not missing sporting events. There aren't, people weren't going out to restaurants really. So we don't feel like we've missed that much, and kind of feel like we've made the most of the whole pandemic here. So yeah, the timing, not that it's a good thing obviously, but the timing kind of worked out for us.
Yeah, in the beginning of this, I'm an introvert, so in the beginning of this thing, I was just saying like, oh, so they're asking me to do the things that I prefer to do anyways, which is stay away from people and to stick to myself. But as it went on, it did start to, wear on me, and I did start to notice that that was like a passive aggressive way to say, "Holy shit, this thing is pretty scary. Let me just, make this like defense up." So it was an interesting year here. Very early on, I was worried about the headlines and what everything was going on, and then as time went on, like I told you earlier, I'm much more interested in hearing when I speak to somebody how their area or where they live is doing,
Yeah,
because everything you read nowadays is just, I don't know, 98% baloney.
yeah,
How do you guys handle social media? I mean, I know you guys are, sharing the videos and stuff like that. Do you
yeah.
guys do much of your own personal streaming through the timeline, or is it just posting and going?
Yeah, a bit of both. So we got a Facebook and an Instagram as well. So we kind of, back and forth with other like homesteading people and people doing similar things. So it's really kind of cool to meet some other people on social media. Not just to learn from them, but share ideas and kind of network. And there's actually a pretty big population of people out there that are doing things like this or switching to things like this. And yeah, so many people that have watched our videos are coming in and be like, "Oh, I'm planning to do this next year. This is great to learn from your mistakes. Thanks for showing us all the shitty things as well as the good things," and kind of showing what it will really be like to do this in your first year. So yeah, no, it's been interesting for sure.
The number one thing, Chris, before I give you an opportunity to give the plugins,
Yeah, yeah.
the number one thing that you learned during this thing that you would take forever.
Oh,
That's a big one, I know.
big one. It's kind of what we talked about, but the biggest one's got to be pay attention to what you're putting in your body. Like it's like I said, I'll go back to that Nutella example. That was something like, I used to kind of just eat by the spoonful, and now you look back at that and you're like, that's 56% sugar and 38% fat, and how was I putting that in my body when you can just go buy whole hazelnuts, put it in the blender for 7 minutes, and you've got your own hazelnut spread with no sugar and no processed stuff and all that. So I think yeah, for your health and for the environment, the more food you can grow and be aware of what's going into your own body, the better you'll feel about it. And it's rewarding too. It's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, when you've provided all your own food and you've done that and provided for your family, it's a rewarding feeling.
That's super awesome, man. So I like to ask every single guest this, at least the times that I remember, because I'm super interested in this concept. How do
Yeah.
you go about overcoming fear?
For me, I've always just been a kind of like jump in and do it kind of guy and figure it out. I've learned best that way. So yeah, like I said, we jumped into this challenge and went for it and learned along the way. And um, we I mean, obviously it is fearful, but we kind of had that backup plan of the ocean, and we knew we could eat seaweed for certain elements and things, and knew we had that to rely on. But yeah, a lot of it's just kind of jumping in and putting the fear in the back of your mind and being confident, being like, I can figure this out. Like, look at my grandparents and the things they went through, and people have figured this out for thousands and thousands of years. I should be capable of doing that too, especially, they didn't even have the internet. They couldn't go watch YouTube videos or Facebook groups. Like they learned this shit. Like we have it easy. So
Love it.
I should be able to do it myself.
That's an awesome answer. Yeah. No, I like the approach of just tackling fear head on. Because yeah, me personally, that's why I like to ask the question, because everybody has a different answer. But me personally, whenever I get antsy and don't take any action, it just gets worse. I have to just keep going forward.
Well, then you don't pursue your goals or your dreams. If you're holding back because of fear, you're limiting yourself, and you got to face it. And you can't be afraid to fail. I think so many people these days are afraid to fail and be like, oh, if I do this, I'm scared of it, and if I fail, like people are gonna judge me, or I'm not gonna feel good about myself. You learn from failing. Fail out. We've failed a whole bunch of times. Like it's okay to fail and learn from that. So I think you
Absolutely.
gotta be okay accepting that as well.
The best lessons for sure are the failures.
Yeah.
All right, Chris. So please let the listeners know where they can follow you guys on your journey and anywhere else you want to send them.
Yeah, all of our stuff is all under the name Lovin Off The Land, Lovin. And we're on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. So if you hop onto YouTube and punch in Lovin Off The Land, you can find us there. And we've got a video every week from the beginning that shows our ups and downs, successes and failures, what's works and what's haven't. So and it's a huge variety, which has been cool as well. So everything from gardening and foraging for mushrooms and growing our own mushrooms and logs that we've inoculated. Um, Beehives was one of our favorite things I've got. We've bees, raising birds, chickens and turkeys and ducks. So it's been it's been definitely been a kind of whole learning experience for sure.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, you got it. But my wife and I are definitely followers, and we love everything. Guys, if you're listening, definitely go follow Chris, I appreciate you and Stephanie for the information that you're giving out to the world for something that in the convenience, day and age, it's very rare nowadays for somebody to say, well, I want to give up the convenience and take the uphill climb. So I salute you guys. I appreciate you guys. I'm definitely going to be watching what you guys are doing. Thank you for the information. And thank you for coming on the podcast and giving me some of your time, man. I appreciate you.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
All right, brother. Later.
Yeah. Yeah.
That wraps up another great conversation. And boy, did I learn a lot through that conversation. It is of my belief that every single human being should be as sovereign as possible. And what Chris and Stephanie have been able to do with Loving Off the Land is exactly that. It's removing these bigger chains and these bigger entities in our lives that usually, derail our lives and end up for the worse if we keep relying on these things. So I was taking a bunch of notes. I hope you guys did too. And keep following Chris and Stephanie because they got a lot of things coming is what it looks like. As always, guys, please rate, share, and subscribe. If you haven't done so already, please head over to the show notes and be able to leave us a tip. Anything counts, and it helps me continue to have the conversations I love to have, and it helps me keep giving you the conversations that you love to listen to. Till next time, guys. Later.